There we go.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, same here, Deborah. Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope I said your last name correctly. I believe this is the first time we've actually met.
Yeah, close enough. Close enough. Well, it's no problem.
But yeah, thanks for joining us. If you want to load up your presentation, we have hosted ISO before when Craig Perry was CEO, and I believe you stepped in, was it about a year ago?
Yeah, that's right. Just over a year, February of last year. That's right.
And you came from Cameco, is that correct?
I spent a lot of time at Cameco. I was there for over 20 years. I came from actually Denison. I spent a couple of years at Denison working with the team there as they got things going on Wheeler and also as a chief commercial officer at UPC before Uranium Participation Corp sold that asset over to Sprott, which has become kind of an interesting industry story.
Well, interesting. Yeah. Love to hear that. Would love to hear about IsoEnergy if you want to walk us through the story.
I will. Yeah. So can you see that presentation okay?
Yeah, it's loaded perfectly.
Good. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, thanks first of all, for the invitation, from Adelaide. We appreciate it. And usually we're very happy to do these things. We're even more happy to do it today because you guys are obviously presenting this for a very good cause for getting some funds together to help folks in Ukraine, which obviously is incredibly important today. So yeah, we're thrilled to be able to help out. Yeah, I'm just going to get into IsoEnergy and certainly there's forward-looking statements. So as usual, please just look to our to all of our information on our website to take a look at that information before you make any decisions regarding ISO. But Warren talked about it very well, and he's obviously passionate about the industry, as I think all of us that will be presenting today are. And I won't spend too much time on this. I know it's supposed to be about ISO, but it's really important to kind of get a sense of the market, given the environment that ISO and NextGen and Sky Harbor are operating in. And like I said, Warren did a great job. Really all I'll add to that is for us, as Warren alluded to, it's really about the supply demand fundamentals. And today, following 10 years of kind of a down market following Fukushima, we've got supply and demand fundamentals that are probably better than they've ever been on the uranium sector. And so that's what we really kind of we look to when we're doing our planning and we're looking ahead. There's over 2 billion pounds of uranium still needed to be contracted by utilities between today and 2040, which is not that far out in time. So lots of uncontracted today, given the environment we've been in over the last 10 years. Certainly, the shift in geopolitical dynamics is causing huge changes, substantial changes, material changes across the uranium industry and the nuclear industry in general. So you've got these supply demand fundamentals that are really backing a strong market going forward, but you've got a lot of things that are kind of accelerating some of the activities in the market and the decisions in the market, including, last year it was all about Sprott and bringing in the changing, the way they operate that fund and purchasing a lot of material, which has had a big impact on the market. This year, we started seeing some civil unrest in Kazakhstan. Never thought that, after that kind of was managed, quite quickly in a very positive way, that something like Russia, would emerge with the situation that we have in Ukraine, and really that is going to have, it's already had a big impact on the market and the prices and just what's going on in the supply side, but it's going to have an impact far out in time. Regardless of what happens going forward, it's Russia continues to be a major supplier to the West, including upwards of 20% of the nuclear fuel in the U.S. The U.S. market comes from Russia. So there's going to be a lot of changes. Some have already occurred, but there's more changes coming forward. And as Warren talked about in his presentation, I mean, starting to look more and more at geopolitically stable jurisdictions like Canada and Australia. In the U.S. is going to become more and more important than it's been in the past. So lots of things happening on the supply side over the last few years with the shutdowns but now some of that production starting to come back online. And again, I won't get into that in detail, but I think the other piece just to mention is notwithstanding that the market today looks better. It's also the environment around nuclear and just the narrative that people around the planet are really starting to adopt. I think for years we talked about climate change and it sounded good, but it seems like people are getting in, being very serious about it, and as a result, they're having to become more serious about nuclear, because I think as you get serious about this discussion, and again, as Warren talked about, you can't help but see that nuclear presents a huge part of the solution to the climate change challenge. So, that's just to kind of set the stage for the environment we're working in, which is, of course, an exciting one today. And IsoEnergy, is in a great position and positioned well as we kind of go forward out in time. We've only been around since 2016, so we're closely tied to NextGen, as many involved in the sector know. But those that don't, we were spun out of NextGen in 2016. They put 5 of their eastern Athabasca properties into the company and clearly had a strategy at what today probably was the absolute down point in the market. So if you look back 2016, since then, there's been some positive changes, but 2016 was a pretty dreary time in uranium, and NextGen had the forethought to create a company, put some good properties into it at a time when there was nothing else happening. And what that did was create an environment where we also had an ability to go pick up additional properties, good properties that had been worked in the past, but really, people had stepped away from the sector. There was no capital, and so today we have 24 high quality projects, all in the eastern Athabasca Basin. We've got a very strong technical team, obviously, given our success with Hurricane, which I'll get into, but really just a good strategic view to pick up those assets at low acquisition costs. It's really, corporate development 101. Do it when the market's low, and it's sometimes easier said than done. It's tough to make those decisions at certain times in the market, but they were able to do it, and we're benefiting from that today, and we look to be benefiting from that, down the road. So the company itself, like I said, we staked lots of properties, all in the eastern side of the basin. The strategy was really, NextGen's got the arrow in the west. We're going to stick to sort of the eastern side, and the benefits of the eastern side, of course, are that there's lots of infrastructure. This is where all the projects have been developed over the years, and the MacArthur's, the Cigars, and older projects, the Rabbit Lakes. There's roads, there's power infrastructure. So if you can find good deposits or good projects, and in that side of the basin, it's a real benefit to be working there. So we started drilling, on assets that hadn't been adequately drilled. We picked up a lot of great properties, and the best, addition after being set up by NextGen was to come up with our Larocque East property, which is now home to the Hurricane Zone. We've got many other properties in the portfolio that we're very excited about. We focused a lot on Larocque over the last few years, so we haven't spent a lot of time on some of these others, but we'll certainly plan to do that, and I'll get into a little bit of that today as well. Just to focus, on Hurricane, because it is our core flagship asset. We bought this property that you see on the screen is the Larocque East property. We bought it from Cameco back in 2018. Again, sort of bottom of the market. Very quickly, we discovered mineralization where you see the star, the red star on the screen. If you can see my cursor, that's the Hurricane deposit right on the border of the project there. We had a great result at the end of the 2018 drill season, and really after 2018, as a result of that, we spent the last few years focusing on the Larocque East and what's become the Hurricane Zone deposit. Did a lot of drilling summer of 2020 that really took the project to the next level, and you see some of the assays below on this list. We stopped drilling in the winter 2020 because of COVID, but we've been very active since last summer. Last summer, drilled another 30 holes up there and have just finished up a winter program as well that we just released initial results on. So it's been a great deposit. We're getting, we've had great results. We're getting a very good view of what this is. We're learning about it every time we drill. It's very strategic in a lot of ways. It's quite shallow, given given where it is in the Athabasca Basin, 325 meters. That's well within, economic depths, given where other projects have been in the past, and it's also very close to Orano's McLean Lake Mill, which is a huge strategic advantage to be anywhere near an existing mill in this part of the world. Just one quick schematic here on where it sits in the basin, just to give you kind of a comparison around the depth compared to other projects. So, we're shallower than the MacArthur's and Cigars, right around the same depth as Phoenix that Denison's developing. And so, really in that sweet spot, it's an unconformity hosted deposit. So the bulk of the deposit sits in the unconsolidated sandstone on top of the basement rock, which is similar to Wheeler River, Phoenix, MacArthur Cigar in that kind of makeup. With respect to exploration, the work we've been doing, like I said, we've been following up on this project in a big way for the last couple of years. In summer, we drilled over 16,000 meters at Larocque East and on our Geiger property, which is the first time we went back to another property outside of Larocque East. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a couple slides. But we did that. We also completed lots of geophysics on Larocque East out to the far eastern side of the deposit that we hadn't drilled in the past in order to get some good targets for future drill programs, which we've taken advantage of this past winter. We also did some geophysics, airborne geophysics on the Collins Bay extension, the property you see out to the right, which is also something that we're excited about as a property down the road. It's on trend from Eagle Point and Collins Bay past existing mines. And so we like the looks of that and developing plans for that down the road. This winter program, we did another almost 12,000, planned for 11,900. We did just over 12,000 meters of drilling on the Larocque East. Only 2,400 meters following up on mineralization on Hurricane that we came up with last summer. The majority of the exploration was actually along that conductive trend out to the east. So utilizing that geophysical work that we conducted back in the summer of 2021, identified some great targets and did a lot of work there. We also followed up some drilling last summer at Geiger by some additional geophysics to identify new targets and also did some geophysics at our Ranger and Hawk projects. We've got a couple of core sample photos here, and it's really just to give you a sense of what we have here. And Warren talked about the quality of the deposits in northern Saskatchewan, and here you have chemical assays that are in excess of 70% for some of this. So the top box, is the best result we've had to date, 3.5 meters at 74%. And it's just, it just shows you what does that look like? Well, it's pure black pitch blende. It's almost pure uranium. And this is on par with, other great deposits you've seen in the past in the Athabasca Basin. Last summer, we had a great hit, 6.5 meters at over 20%, 3.5 meters at 34.5%. And that's the very black core sample that you see in the middle of that picture as well. So just some great results, and continue to drill there and define the project and come up with a great view of exactly what it is that we have at Hurricane, which we're very fortunate to have. This is a drawing, just the most recent drawing of just what does the deposit look like from a grade perspective. You see the darker red or orange to the left, and that really is the sweet spot of the deposit. We've been drilling, seeing that it extends out to the east for quite a distance, for a kilometer or so. But we started to put some of the ring fence around this, to the north and to the east, especially last summer when we were drilling. We had some good results down in this hole 101, LE21 101 last summer. So we did some follow up this winter. This is, we don't have a full assay yet, but the radioactivity from LE22 115 was a good result. So we continue to build a little bit on the deposit. Like I said, the sweet spot's sort of over here on the border, and that's the border of the Dawn Lake project with Cameco and Orano. That's their project. We do know that they, over the last year or so, they've started to look at this, given the results, I think, on our side, but they've done some geophysics. They were doing some drilling on the other side. So it's become an active area, and there's obviously a very good story developing with respect to, what does the hurricane deposit become out in the future. So just, look at where we've done some geophysics, some of the resistivity work that we've done on the project. And you can see, the hurricane deposit way out to the west here. It's a small piece of the property. There's 15 kilometers of conductor along the eastern side of this property. And so it's, in these A, B, and C zones that have been circled that we started to do more exploration, conducting a lot of that this past winter. So, we're looking ahead to, what else is on the Larocque East. We'll have assays out for the winter drilling shortly, but the initial radioactivity has been posted. Geiger, I mentioned a couple of times. So last summer when we did some drilling on Geiger, was the first time ISO had done any drilling outside of Larocque East since we initially found hurricane. And that's just because that's been the main focus, and it'll continue to be our focus going forward. But we wanted to free up additional resources because, really we started without the Larocque East when the company was formed, and we had great projects that we wanted to explore, and we still hold those projects. And so we wanted to turn some attention to, what's the next stage in the ISO story? Which properties do we want to spend time and resources on? And Geiger's one of those that we like a lot. We did some drilling last summer, got some good structural information, and found some new alterations in that deposit. Did some geophysics now this winter in order to kind of lead us to a position this coming summer where we can do some additional work. So we'll continue to do work on Geiger and are looking forward to that for this summer. The other projects, just Hawk and Ranger, a couple of other projects we haven't done a lot of work on lately. So we did some geophysics to really establish some targets for future drilling as well. Ranger's down kind of in that sweet spot between, MacArthur and Cigar in the southern part of the basin on the western side, eastern side. And Hawk is more up to the north, near to where our existing hurricane deposit is. As far as corporately, probably running out of time here, but we continue to have benefited greatly from not only finding the hurricane deposit, but also where the market's gone over the last 6 months to a year, and obviously we're very positive on where it's heading longer term. We continue to have a good cash position. We're sitting on still about $9 million in cash. We haven't raised in some time. We've had enough to keep us going, and really could keep us going through our program for the rest of the year. And the nice thing about this market is there is interest in in investors providing capital. There's capital available there, and so we will at the right time take advantage of that to continue to drive forward with the work that we want to do on some, not only the Larocque East and Hurricane, but also on some of our other projects. As far as the management team, as Deborah mentioned, I joined the company back in February of last year. It's been a great year of getting back to work in the field and some changes. We just hired a new chief financial officer, Graham DePries. He's come on full time. He was most recently with Hart Gold, but he has experience in uranium back with Uranium One several years ago. And so him and his family are moving from Toronto to Saskatoon, which is where we have now headquartered the company since I came on in February, really just recognizing that, our projects are here in Saskatchewan, and I'm a Saskatchewan guy, born and bred. So we wanted to be close to our projects, to the communities we're working with. And so very happy that Graham has come on to support that. Andy Carmichael has taken over as Vice President of Exploration. Andy's been with the company since the beginning and critical in the discovery of Hurricane. And he's just done a great job putting together a great team. We've added resources on the corporate secretary side. Elizabeth's a lawyer here in Saskatoon, and Dave Thomas is a 40-year vet of mining and geology, and not just in uranium, but in other commodities. But Dave is basically recognized as one of the foremost authorities on uranium geology, and not just in Saskatchewan but globally. So we're happy, thrilled really to have him on as a dedicated consultant on uranium. I also mentioned, we came out of NextGen, but we continue to really enjoy the support of NextGen in a big way. They continue to be just over a 50% owner of ISO. Our chairman is Lee Courier, the CEO of NextGen, and we benefit from Trevor, Richard, and Chris here that are also directors of NextGen, and obviously have the experience of just taking NextGen through the ride that it's had and drawing on that experience and applying it to IsoEnergy. So very, very happy to have that support, not just financially, but just, in every aspect of managing and operating the company. Deborah, that's really about it. I mean, as far as highlights, I mean, we are really the only high grade discovery that's been made in uranium globally over the last number of years. So it really puts us in a kind of a unique position. We've got a great team, not just on the geology side, but now financially and in governance, and with complete support of NextGen. And Warren mentioned it, but yeah, geopolitically, it's always been important to be located in a place like Saskatchewan. But I think today, given everything that's happening in the world, it's going to become even more importantly. And he was right. Fraser Institute just came out with their new mining rankings, and Saskatchewan is number one in Canada for mining jurisdictions, and number two in the world, second only to Western Australia. So, we're really well positioned with a great discovery that we've made in the last few years in a market that we believe is strengthening and really fundamentally changing in a very, very positive way with respect to supporting nuclear globally. So that's really where I'll end it for now, Deborah, unless there's some questions, but really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Tim.